I've taken multiple shots so far at doing a segment talking about the situation in Ukraine, but every time I do one, and then it's later that night, and it's time to upload it, something just always comes to mind, or something stops me. I just don't feel happy enough with it. I always left something out, or I feel like I could have given more historical context to the situation, or I think maybe a joke I made might have been inappropriate in the context. Maybe people will be upset about that. You'd be very surprised at how differently my YouTube video audience reacts to things that I say than my YouTube live viewing audience. I'll say something on here that you guys say based when I say, and then the YouTube comments section is just filled with people screaming about it, right? Things like that happen, and it concerns me, and I want to make sure that when I'm putting out content, especially on something as important as this, it's as good as possible. And I felt like so far, none of the Ukraine segments I've tried to do have been good enough to upload as their own individual videos. So I've decided instead that I'm going to do a few videos on Ukraine. I'm going to talk about a few different separate topics I've wanted to discuss involving it. Just talking about them in different videos to keep things a little bit more simple and straightforward. And the first thing I want to talk about is the responsibility of both me and everyone else, including you guys, who are engaging in the discussion around this Ukraine thing. As we speak right now, I'm currently doing a live stream in which we're watching some live cameras of cities in Ukraine, most notably ones that are under attack, except for the ones in the cameras in Lviv. But especially the ones in Kharkiv and Kiev, they are, we're watching them. We're hearing gunshots. We're seeing right now, this is actually a petroleum storage facility, like an oil pipeline, some shit like that got blown up and is currently just perpetually burning on the horizon, and we've got a live cam pointed at it, so that's ominous. It does, in fact, look like Mordor in the distance. It does look like we're looking to the dark forces rising in the east, which is literally what's happening, Russia. But to be serious, in all seriousness, I want to talk about the discussions that are had about the fighting, right? So whenever we get I've been watching a lot of news coverage about this, or I've just generally covered streamers doing it, mainstream media, news networks covering it, CNN, stuff like that. And obviously I've covered it myself. And something I've noticed a lot that's been consistent among both the people covering this and the viewers is when the news comes out that like the Ukrainian military shot down a Russian transport plane, obviously that's a win for the good guys. And I know history is complicated and the real world is complicated, and there's very rarely good guys and bad guys. But I'd say in this situation, this is one of the very few historical situations in which there's a fairly definitive good guy and bad guy. And the Ukrainians are the good guys. They're just doing their own thing. They're being invaded by Russia. Russia are the bad guys in this scenario. But it's right there in my wording. What do I mean when I say Russia are the bad guys? I'm not talking about the Russian soldiers. I'm not talking about the Russian soldiers whose boots are on the ground or who are flying these planes or firing these weapons at the Ukrainians. They are not the ones to be blamed for this. The people to blame are Putin and all of those that enable him in his administration. I don't know exactly how the Russian government is organized. I imagine that Putin has a significant amount of power, but I would be surprised if there isn't at least a few people among the government of Russia that sort of support Putin in his deeds, right? But I want to make it very clear here. When the Ukrainian military shoots down a Russian plane or ambushes a Russian tank column or something like that, yes, that is a win for the people defending themselves and thus objectively the ideal scenario in this situation. I don't think it's something to be celebrated in the way that I've seen a lot of people doing it. A lot of these Russian soldiers are kids. Like, I've been seeing these videos and photos and whatnot of these Russian soldiers being sent in. They're all like 18 and 19-year-olds, They were all probably playing Among Us with their friends like 6 months ago. These are fucking Zoomers that are being sent out to fight. And I'm sure plenty of them are completely bought into the propaganda. I mean, they have to be, right? I mean, every single time Putin does something like this, whether it be the annexation of Crimea or basically anything hearkening to the reconstruction of the USSR and reclaiming those old Soviet bloc countries and rebuilding those buffer states. It gets him his Putin's numbers rise when he does that. So clearly there are a fair amount of Russians who bought into the propaganda, but that doesn't mean, you're talking about Vosh, right? I haven't seen Vosh do this, but that doesn't mean, I'm mostly talking about the viewers, actually, Lone Drow. This is more so me calling out viewers more so than any political figures, because I've seen my viewers do it, and I've seen the viewers of other political streamers do it. And I don't think it's like them being bad, but I think it's just something that, you know, I just want to put this video out to remind people. These Russian soldiers are the victims too. They're victims of propaganda, and the vast majority of them don't really have much of a choice but to go. I know that there has been some protests going on. I think like 5,000 soldiers actually refused orders to enter Ukraine for the... oh, it's still pulsing. Refused orders to enter Ukraine for the invasion. There are certainly people saying no, but I mean, realistically, they don't exactly have that much of a choice. Desertion isn't exactly looked positively upon even by the American government. I hate to imagine what Putin would have done to you. Make cam a bit bigger for the segment. Yeah, I'll just go full screen for now then. But every single dead Russian soldier, their blood is on Putin's hands, not on the Ukrainian soldiers' hands, not on Zelensky's hands, not on anybody in Ukraine's hands or their own. Putin's hands and all those that enabled this invasion. It is on their hands. The leaders of this country that are sending their young men off to die, and it is young men, let's be real, it's Russia. We've seen their army recruitment ads. I doubt they're allowing women into their military, at least not in any serious capacity. Like every single one of their deaths is on Putin's hands. And every single time you hear that Ukrainian soldiers have just taken out a battalion of Russian soldiers, that should upset you as much as it does that that the Russians took out a battalion of Ukrainian soldiers, because that's another group of 19-year-olds that Putin has decided deserve to die. Now, some people are going to say that my take right now is like, oh, all death is tragic. Yeah, okay, all death is tragic, but to be clear, I'm not trying to defer blame from either side. All the blame lies squarely on Putin and those that are pushing for this invasion among the Russian government. My only point here is not to glorify and or make light of the death of these Russian 19-year-olds that probably don't have much of a choice but to fight for their Kremlin. It really is tragic that they're dying. I mean, it is the best case scenario that more Russians are killed than Ukrainians, because yeah, but still, none of it is good. We shouldn't be going, yeah, Ukraine, let's go, every single time we hear that they blew up, a tank or something. I think some level of patriotic celebration, considering the circumstances, is fine. Very much like if you were, right? But you guys aren't Ukrainian soldiers, okay? Listen, if you're a citizen of Ukraine or a Ukrainian soldier, then you can go, yeah, fuck these Russian pigs. Yeah, and fine, okay, cool. If you're being invaded, you can engage in that rhetoric. But if you're like someone watching from the outside, don't glorify or make light of the death of these soldiers, okay? Just like Vosh today. Did Vosh do that? I only watched the end of his stream. I didn't say anything like that towards the end of his stream. I think it's all right to celebrate cities holding or expensive equipment being taken or destroyed, though. Yeah. Like for example, okay? Sure, celebrate, that's a whole nother column of tanks taken out. Don't celebrate, that's probably like 150 Russian, young adults dead, okay? Let's just make sure we're targeting our celebration and our applause appropriately, I guess. Anyway. That's more or less all I wanted to say. I think that our messaging should be somewhat appropriate here, and there is also more to say that this is a fine line to walk, okay? It is very difficult to do coverage like this. I feel like I'm walking on a tightrope constantly. I worry that I could say, tweet, or just say something that could potentially age poorly, or accidentally spread some misinformation, or anything like that that could potentially cause some harm. I'm not trying to do that. It's a little bit of a worry that I have whenever I do live coverage like this. So yeah, you got to be careful when you do this stuff. So if you're watching all of this, hopefully you take what I said, you internalize it. Hopefully, if you were making that mistake before, you agree with me and you changed your opinion, and now you're going to do a little bit of better, responsible messaging, and it should be Pog. Fuck Putin. We can say fuck Putin, though. All right? So fuck Putin, and fuck whoever in the Russian government supported this push that was not threatened for their lives, because Putin gives me the vibes of the kind of guy who would literally murder. Well, he has murdered his political opponents. So let's just say that maybe some people in the Russian government are kind of like, yeah, we totally support this. Yeah, yep, we do. Anyway, with all that said, if you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, subscribe, ring the bell icon. My social media is linked down below. Thank you for your support. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.